After graduation, my childhood sweetheart ditched me and followed a scholarship kid to the same college. But her best friend, a DC socialite, enrolled at NYU with me and began a relentless, full-blown pursuit. The moment I agreed to her confession of love, I saw the live comments. Damn, willing to sacrifice herself and seduce the side piece just so our main couple can have their happy ending. Just watch. She'll act all into the villain now. But once he's completely hooked and stops bothering the female lead, she'll dump him so hard. That poor guy is still totally in the dark. Serves him right. Who told him not to know his place? Everyone knows childhood sweethearts can't beat the hot new thing, but he kept clinging to her, making our boy Felix feel insecure. What a snake. The villainous side character they were talking about was me, and I was pathetic. I glanced over at Vivian Foster, who was leaning against a supercar overflowing with flowers. She was gorgeous, rich, eager to please, and completely at my beck and call. I was the one making out like a bandit here. Okay? Later, the scholarship kid would tearfully threaten to break up with her to prove she hadn't fallen for me. Vivian, annoyed, would dial my number, but no one would answer, because I had already ditched her first. With all the money she'd given me over the years, I was on a plane to study abroad. The live comments appeared just as I was about to accept Vivian's confession. This top-tier heiress from DC had traveled all the way to New York after graduation, just to chase after me, the son of a bankrupt family. She pulled up in an Aston Martin filled to the brim with roses. The delicate hand resting on the window frame was adorned with a Richard Mille. Her every move smelled of burning money. She smiled, dazzling and bold. Leo Rhodes, I've had a crush on you for so long. Give me a shot. Huh? A wave of screams erupted from the people around us. The comments scrolled by in a frenzy. Say yes, you villain. Only when you're with the loyal number 2 girl will you stop bothering our main couple's sweet romance. This scheming guy is the worst. Even if you're the female lead's childhood friend, you should know that's no match for the new guy. Why do you keep throwing yourself at her? So shameless. Second lead, you have to play him for a fool. When he's most obsessed, dump him and teach him a lesson. It would be even better if you could make him flunk out of school and never recover. So that was the deal? In that case, I was beyond delighted. I took the bouquet from her. All right, this was a gorgeous, loaded DC socialite we were talking about. A girl completely out of my league. And now, just to trick me, she was humbling herself and using every trick in the book to seduce me. Could a deal this good even exist? I'd finally made it. The female lead the comments mentioned was my childhood friend, Linda Vance. Our mothers were once best friends. When I was 10, my family went bankrupt, and I was sent to live with the Vances. Although they treated me well and I never lacked for food or clothing, the suffocating feeling of being a charity case, along with the malicious whispers of others, chipped away at my pride, day after day. It wasn't until puberty hit that I discovered something. The closer I got to Linda, the quieter the rumors became. To make my own life easier, I started getting close to her, bringing her breakfast, delivering water to her at the sports field, doing all her homework. It was a tender age, and the way Linda looked at me held a certain ambiguity. Our classmates whispered among themselves, guessing when we'd make it official. Those nasty rumors disappeared. The people who once looked down on me started to warm up. Until our senior year of high school, a poor but aloof boy transferred to our class, Felix Cole. I became his foil. My every move only served to highlight his resilience and integrity. Though he was poor, he was above worldly things, treating money like dirt. I, on the other hand, once got into a public screaming match with a shady boss who used a rigged scale to overcharge me $5. He easily aced his way to the top of our grade. I pulled all-nighters, and my practice test scores only went up by 5 points. People laughed at me for trying so hard for nothing. Soon enough, Linda was captivated by his unique charm. She started to draw a line between us. She warned me not to walk to and from school with her anymore. I breathed a sigh of relief. I'd only gotten close to her with a motive in the first place. If she had actually fallen for me because of it, then I really would have felt guilty. After graduation, they quickly made their relationship official. I also took the initiative to move out of the Vance house and start living on my own. After our scores came out, the two of them were curled up on the living room sofa, cooing over college applications. They happened to see me coming down the stairs. Felix was clearly surprised. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see Mr. Vance." I apologized to him. "I didn't mean to interrupt you." I had already decided to pursue a career in scientific research. Mr. Vance's family ran a biomedical company and had deep roots in the field, with extensive connections that included top professors and academic giants. Getting his advice couldn't hurt. Not long after I left the house, Felix caught up to me. He looked furious. "Don't think I don't know what you're up to. You just want to hang around her a little more, don't you?" I didn't understand why he always saw me as a rival. But we were outside, and making a scene would embarrass Mr. Vance. So I didn't argue with him. A couple of days later, a classmate came asking about my college choice. I knew who sent him. Without looking up, I said, "NYU." For one, my SAT scores were around 682, right on the bubble for Harvard or MIT. But with NYU, I could get into their special honors program. And for another, Linda and Felix were staying in DC. I just wanted to focus on my studies, not get dragged into a love triangle. It was a good chance to get away from that psycho couple. But Felix still wasn't reassured. He called in his number one simp, the second female lead, and told her to seduce me so I wouldn't step out of line and bother Linda. Vivian readily changed her college choice. With her family's status and wealth, she could pick any university at random and still live a perfect life. Vivian had things I wanted. After leaving the Vance family, I had to support myself. Even with tuition waivers and scholarships covering my living expenses, things were still tight. But for this golden girl, whatever she let slip through her fingers was a godsend for me. And just like that, Vivian and I started dating, each of us trying to deceive the other. Once, on a date, she left her phone on the table, unlocked. The screen was open to her chat with Felix. She was reporting every single one of my moves to him in painstaking detail. I was horrified. Like a thief, I quietly turned off the screen for her. I was terrified she'd find out that I'd found out she was lying to me the whole time. I was a STEM major. Besides keeping my GPA up, I needed research experience. It was best to get into a lab early, get familiar with a professor, and try to get my name on a few papers as an undergrad. That would help me get into a better grad school. So, by the first semester of my sophomore year, I had confirmed my research direction, picked a professor, and joined his project team. But the path wasn't exactly smooth. Lately, I had no idea what was going wrong. Maybe the cells in my petri dishes were in a bad mood. They died and died and died. The entire experiment was completely stalled. As I was tearing my hair out in silent despair, a helpful senior walked over and handed me a small piece of bread. He told me that the end of science is superstition. When you can't get results, it might be because something unclean has entered the lab. Maybe try doing a lion dance in front of the equipment to ward off evil spirits. Who knows, maybe the machine spirit will be pleased, and it'll work. He said there was once a senior student who was so desperate she started crawling around the lab, barking like a dog. Miraculously, her experiment started working. And so, those two performance art pieces became time-honored traditions in our lab. He patted my shoulder. "Leo, why don't you give it a try? Hey, a crooked path is still a path." I politely declined. As the top student in my department and a campus heartthrob, I had a reputation to maintain. 3 more days passed. My experiment had made 0 progress. The pressure was so immense my head felt like it was going to explode. Along with it came mood swings, hormonal imbalances, handfuls of hair falling out, and several pimples on my face. I decided to reward myself with a nice meal. I changed into a sharp outfit and asked Vivian out for a drink. She was a lightweight. After one low alcohol drink, she was already slightly buzzed. We were sitting close, the air thick with an ambiguous spark. The dim lighting made the contours of her face look even more exquisite. I licked my lips. A sudden hunger rose within me. I said, "Let's not go back tonight, okay?" Vivian froze. She had never thought about taking things that far with me. She certainly never expected me to be the one to suggest it. I kissed the corner of her lips. My smile deepened. What's wrong? We're boyfriend and girlfriend, aren't we? She came from a very strict family and was still a virgin. A little teasing was all it took. Her breathing grew tense. Her heart rate sped up. Under the dual stimulation of alcohol and hormones, the tips of her ears turned bright red, and a captivating blush spread across her swan-like neck. I was like a starving wolf that had finally caught its prey, tireless. We used up the whole box. The next day, I didn't wake up until noon. The pressure from my experiment was gone, and my painful childhood memories didn't hurt anymore. Once I dove back into my work, I was ferocious and completely absorbed. After that, a new world opened up to me. A beauty's bloom is brief, so one must pluck it early. Whenever the academic pressure got to be too much, I would devour her whole, savoring a delicious meal. Vivian had an amazing body, a slender waist, exquisite curves, and surprisingly good stamina. She was a natural when it came to sex. In the end, I really had the male lead to thank for this. When Felix and Linda were flirting, he'd often bring Linda water at the sports field, complimenting her figure while secretly shooting glances at Vivian. That spurred her to spend a whole summer working out and toning her body. I became the ultimate beneficiary of this female rivalry. As I stroked her waistline and kissed her collarbones, I thought to myself, thank you, my dear male lead, for this generous gift. Vivian's family had a more traditional mindset. Therefore, even though I was the more proactive one most of the time, she firmly believed that in matters like this, the guy shouldn't be left at a disadvantage. So, she would frequently give me expensive gifts. Designer watches, limited edition sneakers, custom cufflinks. I never pretended to be shy, I accepted them all. Then I'd turn around and sell them, replacing them with high-quality replicas. After all, I was Vivian Foster's boyfriend. With that halo effect, even if I wore fakes, people would assume they were real. The live comments saw all of this. They wanted to expose my despicable behavior, but found that Vivian couldn't see the comments at all. In their desperation, all they could do was curse me out. So shameless. Look at this gold digger's ugly face. I rolled my eyes in contempt. First, Vivian gave me these things willingly. To her, it was pocket change. The people cursing me were just jealous. Second, she approached me with the intention of playing with my emotions. Why wasn't anyone cursing her out back then? Give me a break. Growing up, I've always lived by one principle. If you want something, admit it and fight for it with all your might. Even if you have to fake it, you fake it until it's real. For example, I wanted money from Vivian, so I diligently provided her with emotional support, coaxing her until she was completely devoted. If she said go east, I would never head west. I never checked her phone or asked about her schedule. For Vivian's birthday, I gave her a bracelet. She looked a little disgusted. I would never wear something this cheap. I lowered my eyes and put on an act. This bracelet is blessed to bring soulmates together. They say it's incredibly powerful. I climbed a mountain to get it and had a master personally consecrate it. She totally fell for it. A joyful light filled her eyes, and the smile on her face was harder to suppress than an AK-47. You like me that much? Fine. She took off her Patek Philippe and put on the bracelet. She would show it off to everyone she met. Another example, I wanted good grades, so I studied like crazy, practically living in the library. Discipline and diligence, I acted the part for so long it became real. Since enrolling, my GPA has always been #1 in the department. I wanted to get published, so I worked my ass off in the lab and built good relationships with the senior students. I managed to get my name as the 3rd or 4th author on a few papers. The comments, which had once been a unanimous chorus of me being a fake, were now starting to change. Some people were becoming my fans. I'm not gonna lie, this guy really loves to study. A handsome top student with a great personality. I'm kind of tempted to switch sides and become a fan of his career. What do? To the person above me, you need to get some taste. Time flew by, and before I knew it, it was the first semester of my junior year. Everyone was starting to plan for their futures. Some were applying for early admission to grad school, others were preparing for the entrance exams. I had decided to study abroad long ago. I had already prepared my IELTS scores and application materials. Cashing in all the gifts Vivian had given me provided more than enough money to get me through a master's degree abroad. One morning after, we were in an executive suite at a luxury hotel. I could just press a button and have someone bring breakfast. But Vivian insisted on cooking herself. She wore my white shirt with an apron tied around her waist. Her slender figure in the morning light had an indescribable wifely charm. She fried 2 eggs, cooked some noodles, and then came to wake me up. During breakfast, she casually mentioned, "Leo, let's go study abroad together. Okay?" I was still half asleep, but her words hit me like an electric shock. Wasn't she just supposed to be tricking me? I was still fantasizing about Vivian dumping me putting on an Oscar-worthy performance of crying for 3 hours, and her giving me a huge sum of money for my emotional distress out of pity. Why was she starting to plan a future with me? This wouldn't do. I shook my head and told a lie. The cultural differences abroad are too big. I'm afraid I wouldn't get used to it. Actually, I'd rather go back to DC. After all, we both grew up there. I've pretty much prepared all my application materials for Harvard's grad program. Vivian thought for a moment. Okay, then I'll talk to my family. She was going to take over her family's business anyway. It didn't matter where she went to school. But for extra insurance, I decided to play a dirty trick. I knew that for years, someone had been stalking my various social media accounts. So I blocked everyone I knew and posted an update. Getting ready to go to the US for grad school with my baby. So excited for our life as an international student couple. It worked like a charm. At the end of September, Vivian got her early acceptance to Georgetown, and I received my offer from MIT. But I lied to her. I gave my roommate $50 and asked him to Photoshop me a screenshot of an early acceptance to Harvard. I sent it to Vivian. "That's great. Baby, we can be together again." June was graduation season and parties were everywhere. I lied and said I needed to get in touch with my future grad school advisor, so I didn't attend any of them. My student visa was already approved. All I needed was a plane ticket, and I could leave at any time. On this particular day, the live comments were unusually active. "Here it comes, here it comes." The main couple breaks up, the male lead runs to the second lead to vent, and after the second lead gets her man, the female lead realizes her mistake. I am so ready for the groveling and the catfight that's about to happen. Even though the second lead slept with the villain, she was just practicing on him. Now her skills are top-notch and she's super eager to please. I'm here for it. The villain is finally about to get lost. Linda and Felix broke up? I skimmed a few comments and finally pieced together the truth. It turned out that when they first started dating, Linda was very generous with him financially. But Felix, wanting to maintain his persona of being above worldly things, always pretended to be reserved, playing hard to get. He wanted to give her more later on, but he never expected Linda to actually believe him and stop giving him a dime. Furious and anxious, he started picking fights, saying that where the money is, the love is, and that Linda didn't really love him. Linda found it all a huge headache and thought his personality was twisted. In the heat of the moment, they broke up. Felix asked to meet her at a bar, just the two of them. By the time Vivian arrived, he was already very drunk. His eyes were filled with tears. "Vivian, you once said that if I ever turned back, you'd be waiting for me. Does that offer still stand?" Vivian didn't answer directly. She just snatched the glass from his hand. "Stop drinking. You're starting to talk nonsense." Felix wouldn't let it go. "You never used to brush me off like this. Have you really fallen for Leo Rhodes? What did you promise me?" She got a little nervous. What? Of course not. The alcohol was hitting Felix hard. He became emotional and his voice got louder. "Then prove it to me. Call Leo right now in front of me and break up with him. Then I'll believe you haven't fallen for him." Vivian hesitated. She clearly didn't want to break up. After spending so much time together, she had started to like me a little, albeit a purely physical kind of like. But she had always been proud. Admitting that she had played the game and gotten played herself would be a slap in her own face. Whatever, she'd break up with him now and get back together later. Leo always did whatever she said. He'd definitely obey. Vivian made up her mind. She took out her phone and dialed. All she heard from the other end was a cold, robotic voice. "Sorry, the number you have dialed has been switched off." It was an unbelievable coincidence. Felix traveling all the way to New York to see Vivian, and my flight out of the country, happened on the exact same day. To save money, I had booked a 2-leg flight with a layover in Hong Kong. 2 hours later, the plane landed. I took out my phone and called Vivian back. I was out, my phone died. "What's up, Leo?" Vivian trailed off, hesitant. Silence hung between us. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. "Say it. Just say it already." Suddenly, a drunken male voice cut in. "Vivian, who are you talking to?" I launched into my performance. "Vivian? Why is he calling you Vivian? Who are you with right now?" Seeing that she could no longer hide it, Vivian finally gave up. As if she had nothing left to lose, she said, "Leo, I'm so sorry. Let's break up. I'll give you a sum of money as compensation." I had finally gotten what I was waiting for. I covered my mouth to stifle a laugh. But I didn't expect the comments to still come after me. The villain doesn't really think going abroad will turn him into some unforgettable lost love. Does he? That move only works for the male lead, lol. No one cares that the side character is leaving the country. I'd had enough. Why did everything have to be a pissing contest? Over the years, I had tried all sorts of methods to make the comments disappear, but nothing worked. I even went to a neurologist. After hearing my description, the doctor suggested I be admitted to the hospital immediately. That scared me so much I waved my hands and said, "I'm fine, doctor. Actually, I feel a lot better now. I'll be going." I had gotten used to these comments floating in front of my eyes every day. But sometimes some of the fake outrage still got to me. The plane landed in Massachusetts. I pushed open the door to my apartment. The room was completely empty. The classic international student starter pack. A blanket on the floor would be my bed for the night. Next came the basic life preparations. Getting a credit card, buying furniture, and joining secondhand student groups online to find deals. And most importantly, finding a few restaurants with food I could actually stomach. A week later, I had basically adjusted to my new life. It was summer break, so I didn't have classes. I went to meet my future professor first. We talked about projects, toured the lab, and confirmed my research direction. Time slipped through my fingers. Before I knew it, it was August. Vivian's birthday. In previous years, she always spent it with me. This year, she gathered a group of her best friends. Even though it was more lively with more people, she just felt off. Getting used to one person's company is a terrifying thing. She sat in the host's seat, head in her hands, not saying a word. This time she had really gone too far, playing with a guy's feelings for 4 whole years. The beginning was her doing, and the end was too. Vivian cursed herself internally. Damn it, how could she be such an asshole? On that phone call, Leo's voice had been so choked up. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say he was heartbroken. He was truly madly in love with her. Although she had given him a hefty sum as financial compensation, 4 years for $1 million. But Vivian was sure that if Leo had to choose between the money and her, he would, without a doubt, rather give up the $4 million than give up being with her. At that very moment, on the other side of the ocean, as I was gleefully counting the balance in my bank account, achoo! This was supposed to be a birthday party. But the birthday girl herself was gloomy and silent. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. Her friends chattered away, trying to liven things up. One clueless, unlucky soul asked, "Hey Viv, that bracelet is pretty unique." Huh? Vivian was dressed casually for the outing. The only thing that stood out was the sub-3-figure bracelet on her wrist. It looked so out of place, not matching her vibe at all. Another friend quickly shushed her. "Shut up, that was a gift from her ex." Vivian felt like 2 holes had been punched through her heart. Wind whistled through them. She looked down. If no one had mentioned it, she would have forgotten it was from Leo. It was just that the first thing she did every morning was fish it out from under her pillow and put it on. It had become muscle memory. Leo's words when he gave it to her replayed in her mind. This bracelet is blessed to bring soulmates together. They say it's incredibly powerful. I climbed a mountain to get it and had a master personally consecrate it. They say it's super effective. The thought made her agitated. She ran a hand through her hair and kicked both of them out. Can't I just wear it because it looks good? Get out. Only my roommate and a few friends knew I had gone abroad. But they all despised Vivian for her scummy girl behavior. So they all willingly helped me keep it a secret from her. Vivian sent me a long apology essay on WhatsApp. I sent her a 9-cent transfer. She accepted it, thinking it was a signal that I was willing to reconcile. She pushed her luck and asked if we could meet up. I thought of the perfect reply. Sorry, you breaking up with me so suddenly really hurt me. I'm not ready to see you right now. Whatever it is, let's talk when school starts. I didn't reject her completely. Instead, I left her a sliver of hope. Because of that sentence, Vivian spent the rest of her break in agony, counting the days on her fingers. She finally made it to the first day of grad school. She was in the business school, which had orientation in the morning. The life sciences school, on the other hand, had its registration in the afternoon. As soon as she got her materials, she went to stake out the life sciences registration desk. She waited and waited, from just 2 or 3 people at the beginning to a long line forming. And then finally, the sun set and even the staff had all gone home. But there was still no sign of Leo Rhodes. She was confused and disappointed. Just as she was about to leave, a guy ran up to her. Hi. Excuse me, are you Vivian Foster? She recognized him. It was Leo's undergraduate roommate. Yes. Where is he? The guy explained. I'm so sorry. Leo asked me to bring you something, but I had so much to do with registration today I almost forgot. I just remembered now. A terrible feeling rose in Vivian's heart. The guy dug an envelope out of his bag and handed it to her. She opened it. Inside was a postcard stamped with the university seal. 2 lines of sprawling text. The words were silent, but they were deafening. Vivian, you can stay in DC by yourself. Your boy's off to MIT. Today was the matriculation ceremony. After the speeches, thunderous applause filled the hall as colorful confetti rained down from above. MIT, the school of my dreams since I was a kid. But as I actually stood here, it all felt surreal, like a dream. My grad school life was packed. Running experiments, analyzing data, reading literature, writing reports. Occasionally, when I had a spare moment, I couldn't help but wonder, what were those 3 up to now? They must have already started their little love triangle chase. Speaking of which, I suddenly realized that ever since I went abroad, I hadn't seen the live comments in the sky anymore. My guess was, the part of this novel that involved me was finally over. From now on, it was my time to freely explore the world. Halfway through the semester, one day, Vivian suddenly appeared outside my lab. My professor was famous in academic circles and hadn't taken on a new student in years. As his special exception, it wasn't hard to find me with a little digging. She said, Leo, I miss you so much. When we were dating before, I was always the one who went along with her. This time, seeing her again, it was her who looked at me with a cautious gaze. I have so much I want to say to you. Can you give me another chance? She had clearly dressed up before coming. A form-fitting dress that hugged her exquisite curves, flawless makeup, her eyes sparkling. She didn't look like she was here to talk. She was here to seduce me. I thought. The pressure from my experiments lately has been a bit much. I slipped my apartment key card into her soft hand. I still have a research summary to write. Tonight we'll see how you do. Vivian went back to my apartment. The room was neat and simple. Besides the necessary appliances and daily items, there were almost no decorations. In the afternoon, she spent waiting for me to summon her. She went to a nearby mall and decorated the room. Roses, scented diffusers, candles. When I got back, I thought I had walked into the wrong apartment. Just as I was about to step out and check the room number, A soft but firm hand pulled me inside. In the dim light, two shadows were cast on the wall. She asked, "Leo, is this okay?" I wrapped my arm around her waist. "MHM." The next second, kisses rained down on me like a storm. That was a satisfying meal. The next morning, I stroked her long hair as if comforting a lazy kitten. I praised her. "Very good, very well behaved." Vivian blushed a little. "I haven't been with anyone else since we broke up. I saved myself for you." "MHM." I know. I could feel it. Her passion had been building for a long time. "So we're not getting back together." I cut her off flatly. She was both flustered and embarrassed. "But last night Yeah. I was perfectly calm. "You got off too, didn't you? But you clearly hinted that I still had a chance." She got out of bed, got dressed, and pulled up our old chat history on her phone. 9 cents. "Didn't you mean to imply that we could be together forever?" "What?" I was genuinely shocked. Then I thought back carefully. "Oh, you mean that?" What I meant was, your apology isn't worth a dime. Vivian's face turned pale with anger. Desperate to prove her point, she found something else. "The bracelet, right? The bracelet you gave me. You said it was for finding love. I wear it every day and can't bear to take it off." I fell silent again. Actually, the bracelet wasn't specifically sought out for her. The Jeanine Temple was perched on a mountaintop. Legend had it that if your heart was sincere enough and you hiked to the summit, whatever you wished for would come true. This applied to love. And it applied to academics. During the period after I had submitted my applications and was waiting for the results, I was naturally anxious. Finally, one morning, leaning on a hiking stick, I trekked to the mountaintop. In the center of the main hall, the Buddha sat silent, its eyes full of compassion. I clasped my hands together and knelt in prayer for a long time. On a table to the side was a container of fortune sticks. A monk asked, "Would you like to draw one?" I picked it up, hesitated for a moment, then slowly put it back down. I smiled with a sense of release. "No, thank you. I had already done my absolute best for 3 years of college. The rest was up to fate. No need to worry excessively." There was a souvenir shop outside the temple where one could rest. I ordered a cold drink and, on a whim, bought a bracelet for Vivian. But I didn't know that the goddess of fate had quietly smiled upon me. Just as I turned to leave, a gust of wind blew through the door. Clatter. The fortune stick container tipped over. A single bamboo stick fell to the floor. A top-grade fortune. After that, I had a frank talk with Vivian. I told her that I didn't blame her at all. From the very beginning, I knew she was playing me. So, in those 4 years, I didn't suffer any real loss. On the contrary, I gained a lot from her. MIT is expensive, a tuition assassin. My family went bankrupt long ago. I only finished high school thanks to the Vances support. Without Vivian, I might not have pursued a graduate degree. And I certainly wouldn't be where I am today. Besides that, there was one more thing. Her cooking skills were genuinely top-notch. I felt like I had won the lottery. Vivian was a little unhappy after hearing all this. I comforted her. "Come on, even though we can't go back to being a couple, at least we can still be." Before I could finish, she suddenly broke down and yelled, "No, I'm a very traditional person. You can't do this to me." I was actually going to say we could still be friends. I have no idea how her mind went there. Since she brought it up, a wicked thought crossed my mind. I tentatively said, "Just say it, are you willing or not?" She suddenly became coy. You have to give me time to think about it." I went back to China for winter break. On the 5th day of the Lunar New Year, Mr. Vance invited me over for dinner. Before the meal started, he asked me if there was any special woman in my life. I told him honestly, no. I was more interested in getting my PhD. Linda didn't seem to enjoy the dinner very much. She picked at her food for a bit, then said she was full, and then, uncharacteristically, started drinking. One glass after another. I had no idea what she was venting about. I, on the other hand, was in a great mood. I ate fish, shrimp, goose, and duck, and even polished off a bunch of sunflower seeds and clementines. When it was over, Mr. Vance looked a little embarrassed. Leo, everyone's been drinking, so we can't drive you home. I pretended not to understand the hidden meaning in his words. I just glanced at the time on my phone. It's okay, Mr. Vance. The subway is still running. I'll walk over in a bit. It'll be good for digestion. Seeing this, he didn't insist. He called Linda over. He said it wasn't safe at night and told her to walk me part of the way. The cold wind howled, and the snow on the ground reflected the moonlight, brightening the night. We walked side by side in silence. She was the first to speak. Leo, we haven't seen each other in so many years. Is there nothing you want to say to me? I said calmly, no. But I've wanted to say something for a long time. Buoyed by the alcohol, she spoke boldly. Leo, back in school, you used to like me, right? Can we start over? I was a little surprised. How many years had it been? Why was she still hung up on that? At this point, I decided to tell her the truth. I'm sorry, but I used you back then. The fact that I was living at your house, there were too many rumors. Some people said I was a freeloader. Others said I was the son of a deadbeat hiding from debt at your place. I sniffled. All these years, my parents have been working hard to pay back their debts. They work during the day and run a street stall at night. They're not deadbeats. I was young then, not as strong as I am now, so those words really hurt me. They even affected my studies. Later, I noticed that you came from a good family. You were down to earth, cheerful, and the center of our class. If you paid more attention to me, they would talk about me less. So, when I was nice to you back then, it wasn't genuine. It was for a reason. Later, when Felix transferred, you told me to keep my distance. I was actually pretty happy about that. You didn't like me, and you didn't have to be bothered by me anymore. It was a good thing for both of us. No, Leo, how could I not like you? You were the first person I ever liked. She was getting agitated, and the alcohol was making her spill all her secrets. She couldn't hold anything back. The person who started those rumors about you, it was me. Because our relationship was special, I wanted you to get closer to me. What? Smack. My hand moved faster than my brain, and I slapped her across the face. The speed of it shocked even me. Linda was a bit shorter than me, but in a moment of rage, you can unleash infinite potential. Despite our similar sizes, the force of the slap sent her head whipping to the side. The slap sobered her up instantly. Smack. I followed up with a backhand, straightening her head back out. But I still wasn't satisfied, so I began. A slow-motion replay with my left hand and my right hand. While hitting her, I cursed through clenched teeth. So that's why people were gossiping about me for no reason. It was you, setting me up from behind. Of the three of you, you're the absolute worst. Shameless beyond belief. There was still some time before school started again. During the break, I received an invitation from my high school principal. The school annually invites outstanding graduates to record speeches for students about to enter the 100-day countdown to their own final exams. On the day I returned to my old school, Felix was there too. But I acted like I didn't see him, avoiding eye contact the entire time. As I passed the small garden outside the academic building, he hurried to catch up with me. Why? Why are you always trying to take everything from me? Now, Linda wanted nothing to do with him. Vivian had also blocked his number. The male lead halo he was once so proud of had completely vanished. I turned around. I was puzzled but also amused. We haven't had any contact since high school graduation. Have we? But you've been secretly stalking me, haven't you? I actually hadn't noticed at first. It wasn't until the end of my freshman and sophomore years, when various platforms started releasing their annual account summaries. Felix, hiding behind a default avatar and username, had secretly visited my profile 800 times, beating 99.9% of my friends to become my top fan. I wasn't angry. In fact, I got a huge kick out of it. You don't have to feel bad for stalking someone as perfect as me. I knew Felix's years of malice toward me stemmed from those two girls. I reasoned with him. Linda and Vivian, they're both messed up. Is being liked by them really something to be happy about? I don't know why you hate me, but I know you're always staring at what others have, ignoring what you possess yourself. There's a saying, don't see the gains of others as your own loss. Actually, Felix, I've always been envious of you. I can still clearly remember when you first transferred. You easily got first place in the grade with a 12-point lead over second place. Later, in the final exams, you came out on top again, becoming the top scorer that all the media outlets were scrambling to interview. If you hadn't targeted me over and over, I would have actually wanted to be your friend. Because I'm someone who loves to learn and also has a bit of admiration for the strong. The author's role for me was to be a foil to the male lead. Therefore, only if I was strong enough would the satisfaction be greater when the male lead easily surpassed me and trampled me underfoot. So, the author gave me a brain second only to a god of studying. As long as I was willing to work hard, I could achieve the results I wanted. The paths before me were few. Business relied on talent. I had no business acumen and no capital. The money my family owed the bank from their bankruptcy was only just paid off in the last couple of years. Love relied more on luck. Whether a relationship is good or bad depends on the person you meet. If you're unlucky, you meet the wrong person, or the two of you just can't get along. Then no matter how much effort you put in, the relationship will eventually fail. But studying, putting in the effort, reaping the rewards, that was one of the few things I could completely control and get positive feedback from. Only the path of study was the fairest and most stable for me. It's what has brought me to where I am today. After that speech, Felix stood there stunned for a long time. Then he slowly and dejectedly squatted down. He covered his face with his hands, his shoulders trembling slightly. "I'm sorry. Leo, I'm so sorry. Actually, I knew what I was doing was wrong, but..." He spoke in broken phrases. "My family is very poor. I only got into that elite high school on a special admission because of my grades. I knew that Linda and Vivian were probably the highest quality women I would ever meet in my life. I had to seize the opportunity to climb the social ladder, so I was worried that you would steal them away." I sighed. To be honest, being his imaginary enemy and being targeted by him for so many years really pissed me off. But I have a soft heart. I can't stand to see people cry in front of me. I patted his shoulder comfortingly. "You were the top scorer on the SATs, an outstanding graduate of Harvard. How could you think like that? Your talent, your achievements are things others can only dream of. Why don't you put your energy in the right place and maximize your strengths?" I pulled him up by the arm. "All right, it's freezing out. Don't stand here in the cold." I took him to a nearby cafe and ordered him a hot sweet rice milk tea. Without me having to say much more, Felix finally listened. He corrected his course and started working hard on his career. At a young age, he became a senior executive at a major company. Later, he bought a small apartment in DC on his own. Whenever night fell, he could see the glittering lights of the downtown skyline through his window. He said, "Thank you, Leo. I was so narrow-minded before. You were right. If you want something, you have to fight for it yourself. We both have bright futures." My phone buzzed with another message from Vivian. She was studying business management, so her course load wasn't particularly heavy. Plus, she had been taking all sorts of business and finance prep courses since she was a child. She was breezing through it. So, she was very bored. She would message me on WhatsApp whenever she had nothing to do. Sometimes it was a travel photo, sometimes it was a song. I was busy as hell and never opened them. But today, the content was a little different. "That thing you said last time, I've thought it over. Are you busy with experiments lately? When are you free? I can come find you anytime." She also sent a puppy dog emoji. Nervous, expectant. I put my head in my hand. She was still hung up on that. "I was just messing with you, you silly girl. Because of my outstanding grades, I applied for my PhD early during my second year of the master's program. 5 years later, I graduated with my doctorate. Before returning to China, my professor asked if I needed him to write me a recommendation letter for a research institute. He was a top figure in the industry with extensive connections. As his student with his recommendation, if I stayed and worked, I could get a green card and immigrate. A future so bright I couldn't sleep. But I still refused. For 2 reasons. First, my family and relatives are all in China. Second, I really can't stand American food. I accepted a position at a top-tier university in China. I would do research and climb the academic ladder. Lecturer, associate professor, professor, I would climb my way up step by step. The moment the plane landed, the long-vanished live comments reappeared. This time, no one was cursing me. They were all welcoming my return. I misunderstood you all these years. Turns out the villain really just wanted to study. A graduate of a top university, a leading talent in his field, who rejected a high-paying job abroad to return and teach at a university in his home country. This is clearly the real male lead. Okay. I'll fight anyone who calls him a villain again. My king, I won't allow anyone to disrespect you. Actually, I quite like the title of villain. To want something and to go after it with clear purpose. Sounds pretty cool. I strive. Therefore, I get.